This tale could be for you, or you, or you, or indeed anyone who has ever felt inadequate due to their physical appearance. For tonight's tale concerns a remarkably unremarkable woman. Picture her as mannequin standard, run-of-the-mill, neither too fat, nor too thin, nor too curvy, nor too slim, and completely nippleless. Perched atop her skull was her most remarkably unremarkable feature, her face. Not ugly per se, just desperately, desperately plain, like a whitewashed cottage wall or this year's Oscar nominees. Her name was Isabella Duncan Metropolis.com. Humdrum and boring. Every morning, Isabella would sit her white bread features down at her work desk, take out her Spider-Man pencil case, which she wrongfully thought made her seem kooky, and stretch her placid lips into the vague approximation of a smile. Sometimes she'd wear glasses. Sometimes she'd dye her hair an impractical color like blonde, but still, nobody noticed her. Every day she'd watch as all the other attractive men and women would gather at the water cooler, laughing, joking, and snorting cannabis, and Isabella would sigh mournfully, knowing that her evenings would be spent with her cats, watching back-to-back episodes of Two Broke Girls. "Oh, how I wish I was pretty," she would say, foreshadowingly. One evening after work, Isabella was waiting by herself at the bus stop, watching the buses pass her again and again, because as we have established, her features were indistinct and infinitely ignorable. It was then that Isabella saw the shop. She could have sworn it hadn't been there the day before. In the center of a row of two-story structures was a 275-foot spire of jagged obsidian, painted in a once lavish hot pink, now faded from years of weathering weather. Its uppermost extremities were obscured by a thick black pall of jet-black fog, which even on this warm July evening flickered as tendrils of lightning lashed at a pink plastic banner cable-tied to the dark battlements. The banner read, "Faces by Claire." "Oh, look, a quaint little startup company. Maybe a makeover would make my appearance more palatable," said Isabella. She stepped up to the heavy iron door and pressed the buzzer. "Turn back," said the novelty doorbell. "For the love of Christ and all his saints, turn back!" Then Isabella noticed the door was open anyway, smiled to herself, and stepped through the portal, which is just an old word for door and nothing sinister. The first thing that Isabella noticed as she entered the beauty parlor was the gentleman sat in the corner of the room. He was 9 foot tall and red. She studied the man's crimson complexion, blackened ram's horns protruding from his widow's peak, and what appeared to be cloven hooves casually crossed on a poof. "You must be Claire," asked Isabella. The red-faced man stroked his forked chin, his crimson brow furrowed in recognition. "What?" he intoned. "I was wondering if you could give me a makeover so that the bus driver would notice me and stop." "I could do this very easily, my dear. Your face is literally a blank canvas. I could make you look like anybody. Give you anyone's face. Anyone that you'd ever known." Isabella thought, long and hard. She recalled the words of her mother, who had once told her that beauty was only skin deep, and it was what was inside that really counted. But she had been an alcoholic who would often leave her unattended in parks. "I want to look like Sophie Ellis Bextor," she shouted. "From accounts," she clarified. And indeed, she had chosen wisely, for Sophie Ellis Bextor was a shrewdly attractive, high-flying business-type woman who bore an almost uncanny likeness to the celebrity personality Charlize Theron. Once all the paperwork had been concluded, she signed the ancient parchment, shook his claw, and watched him reach for a small parcel wrapped wrapped in hot pink paper and tied with a white satin bow, proffered to him by a skeletal hand from beneath the counter. Isabella seemed strangely drawn to the package, like a diabolical flame teasing a faustian moth. She opened the parcel, and there, hidden under a frankly excessive amount of packaging, was the face of her dreams. The beautiful face of Sophie Ellis Bextor from accounts stared back at her, a packing peanut lodged cheekily between her teeth. Isabella gingerly lifted out the face, and with her own placid visage lost in daydreams, she went home to find her father's carpet stapler. Now that she had a brand new face, Isabella found her life changing very quickly. Everyone thought she was someone different, someone attractive and cool, and surrounded by friends, many of whom were polyamorous. She quickly learned that traditionally attractive people were stupid, but had a lot more sex. Isabella decided to enter a dance competition, partially as a show of her newfound confidence/face, but mostly to grind herself against the other contestants. Waving her bouquet to Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells, a favourite piece of vinyl that she'd been very lucky to win in her surprisingly amicable divorce, she turned her attention to the judges' table, and her mouth dropped open in shock. It was none other than Ed Sheeran from the legal department, who bore an almost uncanny likeness to the late singer-songwriter Prince, and an even more uncanny likeness to the artist formerly known as Prince. Finally, Isabella thought to herself, with my new face, I can win the contest, seduce Ed Sheeran, and finally find out what he keeps in those sensible chinos. Sidling up to her prey like a femme fatale crab, she leaned into his ear and whispered sensuously, "Hi, I'm Sophie Ellis Bextor, from accounts. Fancy it?" "No thanks," said Ed Sheeran dismissively. "You're the village bicycle of this parish, and it's an established fact that you're riddled with SATs. Even those who consider promiscuity to be suppressive slander employed by the patriarchy think you're a slag. And besides, I prefer something plainer," chuckled Ed Sheeran, swigging from his stein of banana daiquiri. Hearing him say that, well, it broke poor Isabella's heart, although not as badly as she broke his face with her grandfather's serrated trench knife, which she kept on her at all times, for sentimental reasons. "Murder on the dance floor!" shouted someone at the back, but it was too late, and before anyone could stop her, she had drenched the place in gasoline, barred all the fire exits, and burnt that goddamn house right down.
My daiquiri!
Isabella ran from the torch building as fast as she could, tears streaming through Sophie Ellis Bextor's eyes. She didn't want to be pretty anymore. She just wanted to be her plain old self, although perhaps with a bit of blush and mascara to bring out what little features she had. So she ran, all the way back to the place where the tale began. Back to Faces by Claire. Finding the door unlocked, she burst through the portal, which is now an actual portal like in Ghostbusters. And there, standing in the middle of the shop, was Sophie Ellis Bextor from accounts. Where her face had once been was nothing. Smooth, like an egg in a wig, or a Mr. Potato Head without any of the bits. She beckoned Isabella inside, through the lobby and down the stairs to the center of hell itself. And at the center of that crucible of brimstone and hellfire and lavender sat the red-skinned man, who for those slow on the uptake is actually the devil. "Oh, please, Claire!" shouted Isabella. "I don't want this face anymore. I want mine back. I've had enough of dramatic irony." "I'm afraid that's quite out of the question, my dear," said the devil, laughing maniacally as he pulled back his tight white vest to reveal Isabella's plain old face smiling garishly from his left pectoral. "Be careful what you wish for," it said. The end.